everyone. Welcome to Stay in Your Lane. Here we are from FSA 24, Food Shippers of America Conference. Got with us on the sofa today, Bob Costello. Bob, nice to see you as always.
Good to see you in person.
Nice to see you in person. For those, maybe one or two people left in the country in transportation that don't know who you are, but I think everyone really does and pays attention. Bob is chief economist for the American Trucking Association, also handle cross-border operations, a lot of other stuff. This is a 15 to 30-minute podcast, so we're not going to get into everything that you do, but I'd love to know from your perspective, you've been coming to this conference for, I'd say,
a long time.
20 plus?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be around there.
Because my first conference was more than 20 years ago, and you were here.
Sorry about that.
No, you're the glue. They put you last for a reason because everybody stays to hear exactly what you have to say. So always a pleasure. Volatile times, uncertain times, everybody's going to be looking to you to give them all the answers. So reading your tea leaves, tell us what you see going on right now in our industry.
Yeah, I think we're at a flexion point. I think that it is coming. Whether it's right now or soon to be coming, it's somewhere close. It's funny. If I look back at 2023, that should be the bottom for the trucking industry, right? It was a tough year. I got some things right. I got a few things. My timing was a little off, and one of those is impacting the timing now, and that's how many fleets are going out of business, and at the timing of that. And honestly, I would have thought it would have happened a little faster, but it is happening. It's a hard message for me to deliver because it's people's livelihoods, their jobs, their businesses. I take zero pleasure in that. But in a market economy where we had too much supply and too little demand, that's what has to happen. And I think it's transpiring right now. When exactly we flip to the other side, we probably still have a little bit of time before that happens. But I do think that the trends are setting up that we'll get there in the not too distant future.
To your point, I've spoken to other economists and other people, and I think everyone expected it last third to fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And from their timelines, they were expecting it last third to fourth quarter, and it didn't really hit. We didn't see it all at once. We had a rough October, I think, with attrition, and a lot of people leaving the market in October. But I think, a lot hung in there longer than what a lot of people expected, and now it's getting more and more difficult.
I think a couple things I do think you're right. I think some hung on there. Probably just get as much as they could before they call it quits. I'm really talking about the onesies and twosies, right? But two things I think happened early this year that are probably sort of propelled that. First and foremost, a lot of states, not all of them, but a lot of states have their registration fees come due in January. And I think, you're not going to pay a few $1,000s if you're not planning on sticking around, right? But also we did an analysis, and I'm going to show it today up in my slide deck. We did an analysis of how much money could one truck only in the spot market have accumulated over the really good times, and then how long did that sustain them? And these are ballpark figures because it'll really vary from, but if a driver sort of maximized, right, but then continued even though they were losing money, that money ran out in January.
A lot of them sooner than that.
A lot sooner than that. But what I'm really trying to figure out is the most optimal ones. Like, how long could they have
hung on?
Yes. And I think even in the best case scenario, they ran out of money in January.
Well, I think we saw some reprieve on fuel in fourth quarter that helped. that kept a lot of them where they were digging deep in their pockets.
Oh yeah.
The 20 trucks and less companies where, the variance in fuel was $50 to $60,000 a month. And when we got some reprieve on fuel
Yep.
in the fourth quarter, and there was some need, some demand, that allowed some of them to come out of the red into the black. And, of course, after being with what we've been through the past few years, they're hanging on to it, right? They're being smart. We're seeing guys starting to buy nice, low mile used equipment instead of new. They're being smart. They're having to be businessmen and really fight to stay profitable.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But enough of them have probably left the market, right? That, again, I'm not saying it's happening today, but I think we're closer now than we have been, especially we've just been talking about supply. If we can get a little bit of demand improvement. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is the macroeconomy is absolutely slowing down, right? But if we look at the drivers of truck freight, they're not slowing anymore.
It only goes up from here.
And it probably comes up a little bit. Okay. So that in combination of the supply and the demand also tells me that we're getting closer. Again, is that next month, next quarter, third quarter? I can't exactly pinpoint it, especially I'm a little gun shy after last year, but we are definitely closer. And I think you sense that talking to both carriers and shippers, right? I think everybody's sort of feeling that already.
The conversation's changed to, how long can you hold this for?
Yeah.
When you hear that, then everyone has to saying, we know it's ending at some point in time. How long can we really lock these numbers in?
I think there's a couple strategies going on by shippers, right? So one of it is maybe some trying to get that last little bit of reduction.
Right.
But others then also going up to their fleets and going, not maybe going down that path, but going, all right, don't forget about me now, right? Because they're starting to see it, right? So,
Sure.
But in both cases, they see it coming,
Yeah.
right? It's just a different strategy. So, yeah, again, I don't want to give anybody the impression that freight is going to boom, that it's a return to 2021, early 2022, not even close. But as I will show today, the main drivers of truck freight have stopped eroding and are going to even probably come up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think you look at the time of year. People have made their peace somewhat with where the interest rates are in the housing markets. They say core inflation is down, but that last bit's sticky, right?
Yeah, and it's really in services and around housing. There's also some measurement issues there, but no doubt it's higher than the Fed likes it.
Home heating is going to become less of a concern for the next few months, right? We've got a nice early spring. So things are going to start moving again that normally pick up this time of year. So we'll see an uptick. I just don't, to your point, I don't see it being, it's not, even when it picks up, I don't see it being fast. And I don't see it being aggressive.
No. But again, I think the main point from my perspective is if you have a lower supply base and you have even just a little bit of improvement in demand,
Uptick.
that we'll have to wait and see how much both of those happened. But we're moving in a different direction than say a year ago. That's for sure.
Oh yes. So I think it'll start out, if you want my opinion and what I would share, I think it'll start out on, when you get close to equilibrium like this, and we've kind of flattened and we're not really picked up yet, but we can see that coming. I think it'll start on the short lead time orders. We'll create that volatility there, and that'll let everyone know that things will be changing. And when's that going to happen? Like you said, maybe third and fourth quarter.
So, I would argue too that we've probably seen a little bit of it already in that we had a couple weather events.
January 15th and 20th.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, that freight that sat around for a few days because of snowstorms all of a sudden wasn't getting picked up as quickly.
In areas.
Yes.
Right. In areas. In pockets, you felt it.
Yeah.
But I think that's indicative of when you look at overall movement, right? It's easier to put the puzzle together with 500 pieces. When things slow down and there's only 250 pieces moving.
That's a good point.
Then, there's X number of trucks to reload because there's X number coming into the market, right? Into the area, into the micro markets of specific cities and towns, and especially in the wintertime.
And it's really interesting that we're going into this period of what I believe will be slower macroeconomic activity, yet the truck market can turn, which also gets to my main point that I often give at these sorts of presentations, and that is, everybody's like, oh, the trucking industry is such a great reflection of the macroeconomy, and I'm always like, let's rephrase that.
To pump the brakes.
Of the goods macroeconomy, right? 70% of our economy is services, right? We're not really reflective of that, okay? And so that's really, if we look at where is there going to be less growth, it's around services, it's around experiences. Still growing nicely, but not at the insane clip of 2023, right?
No.
And, there were people that were making up, they weren't buying goods or as many goods. And they went on an extra vacation last year because they felt like they had vacations.
They got cheated in COVID, absolutely.
That's right. That, I think, is coming to an end. Okay. And, so then you didn't buy as many goods. Listen, you went out and got a new refrigerator and dishwasher during COVID. You don't need a new refrigerator or dishwasher, but maybe now the dryer's going right. And so.
But you're still cooking at home.
Yeah. Right. Well, for folks around here, I always say this. We may change what we eat and where we eat, but we still eat.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you can figure that out, right, then you're in good shape in this space because it's fairly consistent overall. Now you get this mix going back and forth.
Wholesale to retail, grocery to restaurant.
Exactly. You get that, and that can really swing. But
what about imports, Bob? Is that I think they've been growing last couple of months. How you mentioned about the demands that impact trucking is you see that continuing?
Yeah, on the import side, Mexico's still killing it, right? This idea of nearshoring, reshoring, friendshoring, whatever you want to call it, is real. It's happening. You don't bring everything back from China overnight,
right.
But it's coming. We can see it in the numbers. So and I think that'll be the gift that keeps on giving for a while. In terms of seaports, though, we
got something coming, don't we, on the East and the Gulf?
Well, we got a labor negotiations that are happening.
ILA's coming up, yeah.
We've got what's going on in the Red Sea that is pushing some back to West Coast ports on top of potential labor disruptions.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.